Hello. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. And it's so nice to be back here. Welcome to the HB show. When we created the Hitesh Bhatia or the HB show, we looked at multiple things. And, the whole idea behind doing the HB show was to create short snippets to create awareness about alternate healing, different topics that we can talk about and different things to really get out there and tell people listen, when you're looking outside your window, when you're looking through your lens, when you're looking at everything at the world outside, just breathe, take a stop, just pause and start looking within, because you can't look without looking within. So here we are back to the HB show. My name is Hitesh Bhatia. I am your host for the evening, and I am a past life regression therapist. I practice shamanism for my own learning. And I'm now working with the shadow work, and it's really getting interesting. I am one of the many hands behind Joining Hands. And today we have in the house with us three dear friends, two of whom I have met in the past, one of whom I am yet hoping to really meet very soon. And yeah, that's what the idea is. So please welcome with me in the room, Hemal Thakkar, Neha Bilandani, and Ujjwal Batra. Hey guys, hi.
Hello.
Hi everybody. Hi. So good to be
Hi.
here.
Hi Neha, you had something you want to say? You can't hear. Neha's on mute. Ankita, I just have to. Those are couple
Thank
of things.
you.
There's a couple of things we yet learn with Zoom. So I like you were saying, yeah, it's interesting times for all of us because we're yet learning, to work with Zoom, and then we suddenly have this whole business of now working offline also. So it's really fun time for all of us in the alternate healing space to work with. So warm welcome to you, Hemal, Ujjwal, and Neha. I think it's fun to have a very interesting audience, an interesting crowd of people over here. But what's more interesting for me also is it's balanced because we've got two masculine and two feminine energies on the screen. Yeah, and I think what's also
Interestingly.
right, Ujjwal, it is. I never looked at that. I just saw my screen. I'm like, okay, we've got, and we never know what and why Zoom does this, but I've got both of the men here and I've got both of the women here.
Exactly. I
Me
was
too.
noticing that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Just in the rightful positions.
Yeah, I think I'm the youngest in the room today.
Oh, of course.
I can get away with that, I think with Zoom, we've all got away with so many things. The first thing that everyone who's met me has pointed out, oh my God, Hitesh, you're so tall.
Yeah. That was my first reaction as soon as I saw you. I said, "You're so tall, man. You're like Father Sky up there."
Yeah, I'm like 6'1" and everyone's like, wow, okay. So I said, okay, I didn't know that. Fantastic. Okay. I think I get my height from my father. My mother's not very tall. I wouldn't say she's very short also, but I get my height from my father. And it's interesting that we start our conversation about talking about my height, which leads me to talking about my father, which is the topic for today. Our parents and, friends, enemies, frenemies. It's like sleeping with the enemy kind of a thing, that you can't live with them. You can't live without them. Yeah, you can't really hate them, but till you don't learn to hate them, do you really learn to love them? So those are the things that I said it'd be fun to talk about today. So I think I'm gonna really go around and ask everyone, what's the one thing you hate about your parent? Choose mother, father, and Neha's like ready to go. So it's fun, we've got in the room Hemal, who teaches inner child work. We've got Ujjwal, who practices and learns and does so much work in the inner child space. And we've got Neha and me, both of us who've had inner child work done with ourselves. We've dealt with so much trauma in our life through our parents. And it's not that we really had bad parents. It's just that the way we looked at things. Yeah. So, okay. So the IC word is taboo for now. We're not going to we're talking about parents today. So
Yeah.
let's go. Maybe I can start. I think one reason I hate my parents is because I think they're so similar to me. I can't get over the fact that my parents it's like looking in the mirror, and every time I look in the mirror, it's like, oh God, I'm seeing me. when I used to see my tall father, I think I inherited from my mother that I walk into walls. So that's one reason I'm like, God, mom, give me everything, give me all your genes. But why this thing where I have to keep stubbing my toe and walking into walls? So it's an open space, guys. I mean, any one thing that you don't really like about your parents.
I
However
can go
much
next.
you
I
are,
can speak about.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Ujjwala, go ahead. However much you
No,
are.
no, no, no. Go ahead, go ahead.
Hitesh, when you said that, we can select a top, like just say what we don't like about our parents. I was like, wow. I mean, out of all the reasons now that you're talking about your height, it just occurred to me that for the longest time when I was young, I would really question my parents. Why did you name me Hemal? That's like a unisex name. My name goes in the guys section, and I would be so pissed off with that fact that why did you allow this to happen? Why had you? And of course, it went away after a point for a long time. I really held that against my parents that couldn't you have chosen any name? I think my network is a bit weak.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can switch off. Please go ahead. You all can continue. Ujjwal, you and Neha can.
Maybe the network needs some
settle
coffee.
my network.
Maybe network needs some good coffee, strong coffee.
I'm so sure.
Yeah, Ujjwal.
However much, I was continuously thinking, okay, he's asking, I have to find one thing that I strongly hate, and there would be a list actually. But my politically correct mind, is stepping in and saying, oh, do I really hate, or is it just like, maybe, I will just, accept it in a while, or maybe, there are so many, things trying to pop in, but yeah, if I were to still not use the word hate and say dislike, would be my inability to adjust, to change, or to gain newer perspectives from one of my parents, and then I became that rebellious child. Oh, in that early stage, oh, you are like this, I will ensure that I will exactly not be like this. And then I became a little too adjusting in things, sometimes, even moving beyond my safer boundaries, to in the name of adjusting, in the name of accepting, in the name of exploring, I realized I started losing my own stand, often just because that idea, oh, because you are too stubborn, you're too stifling, I will ensure I don't become that. So, probably that's a strong dislike area where I would, say that, yeah.
Neha, what about you? Any opinions? I think every time we talk about the parents, we're having internet issues. Parental energy is so
the energy
strong.
has come. The energy has come. They're
Yeah,
like,
Neha.
you're talking about us, we'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that's something actually my mother used to say to me, you think like this, wait, I'll show you when I come back home in the evening afterwards. So yeah. One thing I think I didn't like really about my mother specifically was how she didn't, of course, she didn't know about it, but my mom also happened to be like the black sheep of her family, the one who did things differently, the rule breaker, the one who said, if we're out for dinner, we might as well just have a good time and go back home after midnight sort of thing. So when I came into that being, because my mom used to take me out, when I came into being an adult and I started doing those things, I felt like I didn't get the space to be the, black sheep of the family. But somehow I think that kind of path opened up. I broke rules. I did my own thing. And then once I look back, I reflect and I said, my mom did these things and she broke rules, got out of her house and did, whatever came to her mind. And I think I picked up on similar lines. So I see so much of myself in her, but yes, I hate the fact that I didn't get to be, of course, being a black sheep is not always easygoing. So I think that is that I don't like.
That's so interesting, no, Neha, that, we consider the black sheep, it's called the black sheep, but on one side, you actually have a view that you really wanted to be the black sheep and you didn't get a chance to be the black sheep, which is so interesting. I remember my mother. Yes.
Okay.
So, my mother did the same thing, Neha. My mother was brought up very conservatively, and my mother said, you do whatever I have not done. Which was so interesting. Tu beta meri zindagi ji. And then she caught me smoking and she slapped me. I said, listen, what are you doing? You're giving me confusing messages. Here was this 16, 18-year-old guy, and I was confused because I was told, do whatever you want to do. Go live the life that I have not lived. So I said, fair enough. I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to have girlfriends. I'm going to do everything you've not done. Because we would have evening conversation. हमारे ज़माने में तो ऐसा नहीं होता था. Like I just met your father once. And I'm like, ठीक है, so I'm going to do everything that you have not done. So it's so complex, how parents really bring us up. But what's really interesting, and I think this question is more for you, Ujjwal and Himal. Why is it so difficult to hate our parents? And you mentioned, Ujjwal, there's a long list. And I know hate is a strong word. But why is it so difficult for us to dislike or talk about why we dislike them? You want to take that, Ujjwal?
Yeah. So what I would say is that, it's not, especially as a therapist, I would also say not really, especially as the larger part of the world does, shy away and run away in calling the parents out or in not, accepting what went wrong. But I'm just speaking from the lens where we deal, from the clientele. I would say it's sometimes also too much hatred, and from inside, definitely you love them. That is why you're seeking that, resolution. You want to do something about it, because deep inside, in the center, in the core, there is love. But in superficial layers, even hate is very much present, and even, that I hate my mother, I strongly dislike my father, I want them to die, I just want to run away. It's so common, these sentences that we hear often. But deep inside, when you sit with them and when they continue to speak after this first sentence, naturally the inner core, where there is that magical child, where there is this flower-like child, still trying to seek that love, exists. So what I would say is that, because at the core we are not hateful. It's our perception. Our perceptions have turned such. We have developed the perception that because this is wrong, this is what my perception of wrong is, and then in response I have to hate them. It's just as simple as that. Till the time I'm not aware of something as being bad, let's say smoking, to chalo, it's a very socially said to be a taboo. Okay, it's a bad thing. Let's even say gaslighting. Till the time you're not aware it's a bad thing, even if somebody is doing, what would be your general response? This is what happens in a family. This is what parents do. This is what a husband do. This is what a man does. That's your general response. You won't call it as bad. But when you become aware, you develop a lens towards it that this is termed as bad. So whenever some act is done by a parent which is socially considered not right, or which your peer group or whatever you hear, you term it as bad, then what would be your general response? What would be your natural response? That anything wrong, whenever it is done, I will hate them. Like even prisoners, so many people randomly hate prisoners. They because they don't even know what a prisoner story is. Prisoners are supposed to be hated. A lot of people have hate against rich people, big time big shots. I know I'm just continuously speaking, but I was just going on a walk with a friend 3-4 days back, and out of nowhere he is spitting venom against rich people. And where is that coming from? It's just a lens, right? So again, I guess it's only our lens where that hate is coming from.
Yeah, but Ujjwal, I don't have to sleep with the prisoner every night in the neighboring room, right? I don't have to.
I agree.
I
agree. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I have to live, and this is interesting because I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I see a lot of youth who are angry with their parents.
So can I say something that when I think of even existing on this planet, the first thought that comes to my head is my parents. That I am like, a lot of them exist in me, and hence it becomes sometimes difficult to hate them. But at the same time, I do hate like a part, like a degree of certain element of what has happened or what they have given me, or what I don't like in them. But there is a part of me which I do appreciate, because I do exist because of them. I don't see any other. There are these two people who are solely responsible for me to be able to breathe today and for giving me birth. And that's where I think it gets very tough to completely hate them,
because the result is me.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah.
that's my belief. That's what I believe in, that's the tough part. That how do you completely hate them? You can't disassociate from the fact that you exist because of them.
Yeah, I think all of us love our parents subconsciously so much, right? Because we know, whoever we are today is because of them. From the mother who kept you 9 months in the womb, where she nourished you, to the father who provided everything and got you here, which is what makes it so difficult, I think, to say that I don't like something about my parents.
Yeah.
And I lost my father last year, and I was 41 when I lost my father. I think in a moment, I became a 4-year-old child. I forgot that I'm a parent, I have a child. Everything just crashed because it was me becoming the child who just wanted my father back to hold my hand. But I also know I lived a large period of my life having no relationship with my father. So it was so interesting. I also know when I've had fights with my father, I have gone on record saying, oh my God, if something happens to you, I won't shed a tear. And there I was, crying my lungs out, and everybody saying, listen, dude, stop, what's wrong with you? So I think that isn't that what really makes it so difficult? Because you really love them, but you also hate them. I mean, as therapists, and Neha, I think you're a part therapist since you spent so much time with joining hands today already. It's a conflict, right? Isn't that what really happens when you work with clients, when you work with people? Aren't they really dealing? And Ujjwal, you I think mentioned about the lens. Is there really a conflict? Do I really hate them?
I will just
really love them?
interrupt. I just, before I just have this question, back question. Why are we seeing it as a conflict? I mean, why do we have this lens of life that it has to be this one way only? That if
Right.
parents are there, I will either only love them or only hate them, or like I can love parts of you and I can still dislike parts of you, and that talks about my discernment, that I have the ability to see what is not right is not right, but there are still parts of you which I can love. So I don't know, I mean, that's my personal opinion. It's not a conflict, it's my clarity. I mean, again, depends upon from what space I'm speaking. If I'm speaking from a space where I'm too victimized around the idea that even though I still love them, they do all of this, so I'm confused, should I hate them or should I love them, to a space where there's a part of them which is really troubling, which is really hurtful. But then there's also part of them when at dinner we sit together and they tell me that they're proud of me, or probably not even proud of me. They're just somebody's cooking dinner for me, or somebody's just telling me, okay, beta, take some money and go on a trip. And I just so love that part of them. So it's not conflicting, but for me, it's like they're also humans. I have 100 emotions, 100 personalities, so do they. So, I don't know. I don't see it as a conflict anymore. I just see that's how the design is. Life is actually not even black and white. It is 7 colors and more.
Yeah. Ujjwal, but you know what? I would say one more thing, that even though, it's that this is what you see it as an adult, that you like a part of them and you like you don't like a part of them, and that we can see it now. As children, however, it doesn't occur. It doesn't occur at that point that they are human. For me, probably when I was a child, I saw my parent as next to God. That this is this person whom I depend on, whom I trust, whom my existence is coming from them. So I think a lot of times when we are in that state, we don't see them as humans who can mistake or who can have those flaws. But as an adult, yes, I do see that now. I do see that and I accept that, and I love and honor them for that. But as a child, I don't think so. I saw that.
I'm sure. Neha,
Yeah.
what did you see? Did you see them
I
with
think,
horns?
sorry?
I saw my parents with horns sometimes. I thought that's the devil, especially when I got beaten up. I mean, I loved them to the moon and back, but when I got beaten, and I was a nasty child. I mean, I know I was a nasty child. So
Well,
Neha,
I got beaten up also till the age of 20.
till 20, wow.
Till 25, I was
Wow.
beaten up, and oh God, I was tired of taking it till one moment. I just threw it back and I said, this is an absolute no. But what I also realized is that, like Ujjwal said, there's the victim mode of it. And I feel you're like so heavily emotionally invested in the person who's chosen to bring you into the world and mold you. Sometimes you just do not know how to cut them any slack, because they are also growing and learning how to go from their midlife crisis to menopause or whatever it is, as a woman, and counterpart for the father also. I just think we're so deeply entangled with them. Once you just realize that they are just a pathway for you to come over here and do your own work, and once you detach sufficiently from them, I think it makes it so much easier for you to just see them as a human being who's trying to do their best at one of the hats that they're wearing, which is a mother or a father. And that also eases things out. And for me, it started with I used to go travel solo after I used to meet friends. And there was one lady who's, Airbnb I was staying at, and she told me, imagine the kind of trauma your mom has gone through, me as a Sindhi, because they went through partition. So if they have their entire base and foundation uprooted, just imagine how much she's struggling with it to just bring you up and do so much. And then I realized that I have been so much more fortunate and better than the rest of my friends. And then I stepped into the alternate healing space, and I see everything with gratitude. In fact, I also understood through psychosomatic pains in her body, understanding, what all she was going through and what's the kind of relationship she shared with her parents. And I thought it must have been so, so difficult. And I said, what am I even complaining about? Like, the detachment has come. She's just the medium for me to come into this world. So I'm doing my work. Why can't I just cut her any slack like the way I expect people to do on my healing journey? So, that's the kind of peace I have. And there are times even when I go back, meet her, and, we're still having arguments of there's privacy that's needed, and these are called boundaries, and you're not supposed to be crossing. And she's like, what is this privacy? I was like, are you kidding me? That's the reason I put a lock and key on the cupboard over there, because there's something called privacy. So we're still having those arguments. And it's now that I know this is a boundary. Otherwise, we don't know boundaries. Parents don't always teach us boundaries. So we let them so much into our space that we do not know where they end and where we begin. So I think that's the kind of space, that's the kind of slack we need to cut them also.
I think it's also because today we're much older. We're more understanding. As a teenager, it's you're looking at your parents like God, like you rightly said, because, unfortunately, our parents never went through any school. And I think, and this is my understanding as a therapist, that almost all pregnancies are unplanned. A lot of them. Now, of course, even when you're planning pregnancy, I mean, I yet remember when I say planned pregnancy, the first thing that comes to my mind is Monica and Chandler in, going like, it's time, it's my time. But then even
so traumatic. Oh God, like just planning it is so traumatic.
Yeah, so imagine that even for Chandler, for the parent to go through something like that, where the woman tells the man every time, it's time. This is the time. This is
performance anxiety.
Yeah, and and then you mix that with epigenetics, and imagine what the child comes into the world with. So I think, how would you define parents? And I think that if we can put down a statement, how do we define a parent? And it is,
God, it has so many things in that one definition. Thing, like I feel bad. I was like, oh my God, how much more than my parents expecting out of me? I think I expected so much out of my parents. Yeah.
I think it's
and like how like Neha was saying that, there was a time when I realized that how you're mentioning birthing can be so much. My mom went through a lot of miscarriages, and till a certain point, till I was not in medical college, I would not understand that like in a way that it needs to be understood. But when I did, I was like, oh my God, that woman has been through so much, and here we are, like really pulling her hair each and every day, where she's actually trying her best to raise us, to like really give her best to us in spite of having gone through so much trauma of her own. And that's when it really, really struck a chord to me that, okay, we need to like cut some slack for her. She needs a break.
I think that's what a parent would be, someone who's had like, say, 30 Earth years ahead of you. And once they give you birth, they don't know anything about being a parent. So they are like at zero with their expectations of how to do it. And then the next 30 years, they're teaching you how to come to that same spot of keep your expectations at the lowermost, I think that's what a parent is. They put theirs at zero, and then the next 30 years, they're teaching you to put yours at zero.
I would see that concept in, I'll just bring a little bit of metaphysical view. Like they say, that we are formed in the likeness of God is a statement. I would say if God doesn't exist, if God is also called as creator, the one who has created everything. In just that context, who has created me? Where am I created from? In the physical sense, it's only parents. So for me, parents are like powerful creators, they created me. When we say, why are we like them, or why do we love them and then still hate them? We are made in the likeness of our creator, we birthed through them, and I often, talk this with my friends, like, just imagine, we guys are talking about manifestation. Just imagine we never existed. There was no speck of us, and suddenly something happened, and just see how powerful that energy was, that this person is sitting in front of Zoom and talking about them. Just out of that moment of energy, such powerful energy, such powerful creation that was, that such a complex life is created. And I'll add this Instagram meme. So I'm sorry, I really enjoy memes. There was this meme that, who asked you to give me birth where I have to pay bills, where I have to manage home, where I have to go through trauma healing, where I have to go so much so, and you did something what you were in that moment of love, and after 30 years you're not even in love with each other and you're still not talking, and now I am responsible for paying bills and healing my own trauma. How sad is that? So for me, I would see parents as creators. If we, like, for me, my world exists, my everything exists, my idea exists because I was created. Who created me? It was them. I was born in that moment, whatever that moment was, whether of love or whatever, fear or whatever. But yeah, that is how I would see my parents.
I think it's interesting. I think parents are really interesting creatures. We've got so many views. I think parents are two people who are learning to become who they are every moment. And the classical misnomer, I think, that most parents carry is, of course, there's no university, no graduation, no degree to become a parent. And I think we look at our parents and see, how we should be parents, and which is, I think, the first thing that we do. I think we need to look at our children and see what we need to be as parents. And which is, I think, classical in every organization you go. When you work in an organization and you get promoted to become a boss, you look at your boss and say, I want to be this or not be this. But you should look at the people below you and say, okay, these are the guys who will be reporting into me. I need to look at them and understand what they need me to be rather than what that guy needs me to be. So interesting. And I love, Ujjwal, you brought in the metaphysical element. I'm just so excited. Like it's,
I'll just add an anecdote. If you allow me. When you just said, we learn from them.
You don't need any permission. We just walked and chatting in a coffee shop, in a virtual coffee shop.
It was 2011 when I first, learned healing modality. I was all of 12, and I remember sitting in Delhi with these people who were hosting me. So I used to go attend my classes, and that the kids were being very notorious. Okay, their kids were like my cousins, and they were like 6-7 years old or whatever. They were being very notorious, and I was this, very ticau child. Jisko बैठा दिया वो बैठा हुआ है. वो, he won't just run away and break things and everything. And we were just having tea, and I just told him, I said, आपने अपने बच्चों को कभी दो लगाए नहीं है, इसलिए ये इतने ड्रामे कर रहे हैं. Learn from my parents. मैं बैठा हूँ ना यहाँ आराम से और मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं आपके साथ and now when I see that, like, that 12 is basically saying, you should have slapped your children for, they would have never been this notorious, what they're doing, this silliness that they're causing around. You never did that. You should learn from me as an example, such a poised person sitting having tea with you, and exactly what you said. The way we see it, we make that way of life. This is how it should happen. That's how you teach discipline. You lagao faydo,
So I'm going to go back to the metaphysical thing. Do you think, and this is to all three of you, we choose our parents? And if so, why would someone choose a parent? And I mean, we're all three of us sitting over here, and life has been okay. Life has not been bad. I mean, parents have 2 laga diye, kabhi 4 bhi laga diye. We got punished in the corner. But imagine those who are on substance abuse, those who are serial killers, those who've been, we talk about incest with parents. Why would someone really choose parents like that? Like, I was talking to some young kid, and his parents slapped him once. And he has made up his mind that you slapped me once and it's done. He said, I'm not going to slap you back, but now it's my job to teach you how to be a parent. And the kid is so bitter. And then he told me, he said, why in the hell will I choose someone who puts me through trauma? Yeah. So do you think we really choose our parents?
I think I do.
Karma?
I think it's mostly what we've decided for this lifetime that we want to do, learn, and complete. For me, I think I hated my mom for the longest time, and it was easier for me because I lived away from her since I was 42 days. She had to leave me at the creche and go back to work. And then I stayed in boarding school and with my aunt. So I was always away from her. But once the awareness came, I think it was this epiphany of love that just happened, that why did you choose to be the biggest villain of my life? You're the source to, you're like mother, you're like source to this entire world right now. And why would my source only choose to be the biggest villain in my life so that I could have the largest amount of learning, the awareness, the growth to happen? And right until that awareness, that one moment happened, I hated her so much. I think I would make fun of her. I've got like a few nicknames also amongst my friends, but that was all in school. But then you question, and then it just turns to so much of gratitude. It's almost like, like Ujjwal was saying, that it's equivalent to the creator. You wouldn't question the creator for anything that he's given you. You would be grateful and accept it and go. So I question as to why is it that this person who's created, given me so much, has taken the role to be the biggest villain. And, if this is your role, then imagine the kind of magic that life holds for me. And that is your gift to me. And that's what I've come here to live. And it's just like 180-degree flip that changes everything, that even if I sit across the table with her right now and she still doesn't understand privacy and boundaries, I can still let it go, because it's a bigger gift, more than you can comprehend, which is what God gives you. So which is what your creator here has given you. So that's the way I see it.
I understand.
I feel it's mutual though. It's like if I chose my parents, I feel sometimes I hear my mom talking to me in a way that, there's a typical way in Gujarati that she says that मैं खबर नहीं कया जन्म ना पाप करा छे कि I've given birth to what bad things I've done in my past that I've had these kids. And I do hear her when she's really like in that fit of anger. So I think it is so mutual, but like if it was a learning for me and I only focused on that, I never looked from her angle. But I think even she sees it the way that, oh no, but y'all are the biggest learning that I have created for myself. And it's coming from my own past, probably karma or mistakes, or however, in her way, in her language, she puts as karma or mistakes. But I think it's just deeds. It's just deeds that has led to what it is. And I do see it. There was this one turn point for me that when I would see that, oh, this is my learning and what is it that I need to learn. There was this one moment in my life which I can never forget, because we are talking about hate and love, that when she said, and this is like, I'm an adult, and it's like you expect that your parents tell you love you almost like every other time, and they do love you. But when she said it when I was an adult, that, you know what, I really love you, and I have goosebumps till date when I talk about it. She truly meant it. And that just shifted everything between me and her too. And she, since then, she's like this angst of saying that, okay, what have I done wrong to have these kids who are behaving like this to, okay, fine, maybe this is my learning. Maybe this is what I need to see it as. And I do love them and they love me. And I'm happy to get this love from them. And it did shift for both of us. And I do see that shift between my siblings and her too. So I think it's both ways, that if I selected my parents, I think at some level they selected me too.
That's really interesting, Hemal. No, I think we never look at that. We always are, why me, why me? And then if you are a bad child, it's the parent who's wondering, why me? Because yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It's interesting. The word karma has the word ma in it.
So true.
We never look at it like that. Right? The word karma has the word ma in it, and I'm sure there's so much bigger connection to it.
Yeah. I am so sure.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way, but yeah, there's the word ma in it. True.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So now that we have spoken about all of this, and we have, I think in the room we have 3 therapists. I call myself a half therapist. I don't do one-on-one work anymore, so I'm a half therapist. Neha, I'm adding you as the other half of the therapist. Yeah. And then we have Ujjwal and we have Hemal. So that makes us 3 therapists in the room. What do we really do? What's the one thing that, that if you had been through so much, and I know that all of us talk about this concept called inner child. What really is that, Ujjwal? What really is an inner child? Is there a child sitting inside of me? I really don't, what would you say to people who see this video or see this conversation? What really is an inner child?
So my personal understanding has been, I've always been interested about this question, what really is an inner child? And personally, I don't see it as a literal child, but I see it as parts of my psyche, parts of my psyche, different parts of my psyche. And often, in therapy, I have, wherever in the textual term, inner child is often seen only as a traumatized version, but I like it for my personal joy. I like it also seeing, if I'm calling it inner child, if I'm not calling it sad child, depressed child, why can't that child be even happy? So what I see is, parts of my own psyche, which were whatever, either rejected, suppressed, abandoned, not seen, neglected, whatever state of overwhelm when they went through, when my body did not have the right tools to process it. Not that everything bad that happened to me caused me trauma, but when I did not have the right tools to process what happened to me, I just went, I don't know what to do about it, about this abandonment, about this rejection, this suppression, whatever. A part of my psyche just individuated, as if it led to the creation of that inner child, which I see as suppression of that childlike quality. That if I was being very, very happy, and suddenly somebody came and just said, a very negative remark around my happiness, and I just shut my happiness. Now that inner child, which we see in therapy, is created, which made the belief system, it is not safe for me to be happy. It was also a suppression of my childlike quality, or trust only, that if as a childlike quality, I was trusting somebody and that trust got broken suddenly when that childlike quality got abandoned, or when it was proved wrong, an inner child got created, a part of my psyche again developed, which led to this loop or this belief system in me. It is not safe for me to trust. And once this got created, our brain loves proofs. We are all the time finding proof of everything. We are all, so when our life also starts giving us proof 2-3 times a little more, I amplify on that. See, I felt it is not safe to trust. Now again, this has happened. Now again, this has happened. And that is what in therapy we call as a pattern. Then it just becomes that. So that is what my interpretation of an inner child is, that at different points of my time, whenever something happened which I could not process, it was that deep and overwhelmed, a part of my psyche just, led to a creation of an inner child.
Interesting. Is there an age, Hemal? Do we have that?
I think we could create an inner child at any point. Even like a week back, if I go to trauma and a part of me shuts down, I know I'm like literally locking it up in that trauma. And that's because it's a week younger than me, it would be an inner child. So it's not like inner child is just that child in a sense, literal sense, but it's any part of us that is coming from past trauma. It's literally as if that you have lost the good in you, the good quality because of the trauma. So as much there is suppressed negative emotions, but also contains something of you which you could have utilized. That is going to be positive. So it's both positive and negative. So if I'm going back to that point where, let's say, I have trapped that abandonment, I know that maybe I trapped the ability to love people, maybe, or to connect with people, which is a positive thing. So at every point, we are not looking at just as a literal term, the inner child, but we're going back to our own authentic self of ours that we lost, or that we like covered it up, that we have, that's in the shadow or that's hidden without even us being aware of it. So that could happen even 1 month back.
Interesting.
And that would be an inner child.
Yeah. So would I be right to say that even my yesterday is my inner child? The younger part of me from yesterday is also my inner child.
Yeah.
Any part of me that can go through a trauma, can become can represent an inner child of mine. Very interesting.
I mean, every day we are growing wiser. So the wiser we get, we have a part of us which is younger or which is from the past. And that's how I would say that if you are gaining this wisdom through age, whatever is lying, that it didn't have access to that wisdom or the knowledge or that experience, is that inner child that we're talking about.
Amazing.
Can I give you another perspective to that? I mean, you've got like the whole therapy part of it. And of course, I've also learned the same. Just to take it a notch in a different direction, what I have started to realize is inner child is that one pure, innocent part of you that's been untouched. And, and I mean it untouched in the sense that there is no impression of any thought on that part. That is how pure it is. You can't say that it was hurt and healed, or, any other part of trauma. I just feel like it's so pure. It's like clear water. There's nothing you can say about it. And of course, that's what we're all trying to go back to. And it's also something as an individual you've never fully experienced. And I say this because there's like a happy inner child of me that comes out when I have an open playing field in front of somebody who gives me that kind of space. And suddenly I'm in touch with some part of me that I've never even known exists. It's that pure thing. There's that 1 inch of my being where no thought has been impressed on. There's no thought over there. I suddenly come into living that, and I feel so fully me, like the authentic me. That's when I realized that this person sitting in front of me is giving me that open space to fully come into myself and look at me beyond trauma. It's like a baby. It's pure. There's not a single thought impressed on it. And that's who I come closer to being, the unlearning and that part of it. So that's at least something that I have with you, because I keep behaving like a little child around you. But yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. That
do, believe me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have my inner child coming up across in front of you also.
Yeah.
So we're almost close to wrapping up, guys. But I would just like Heman and Ujjwal, if you can share maybe one case without naming the client, of an interesting inner child, because we've spoken so much about it. And I'm sure people who see this would want an example. Like I know one of the clients, just very brief, and I would want to share, is I had a client who at the age of 6 had his teddy bear snatched away by the parent. And that child had such a difficulty owning things, as he grew up. He came to me when he was, I think, 38 or 39 years old. And the guilt he carried to just by having something, because the toy was snatched away and given to the younger sibling, saying, you are the elder one, learn to share. And this happened when I think he was 4 or 5. And then, when he regressed back, he found out the amount of trauma he carried right from there. So I'm sure, I know we're almost out of time, but just one quick snippet, Hemal and Ujjwal, if you could share of some, maybe your favorite inner child case that you like.
Favorite, but something that really made me like question and wonder and just think about the topic more is that I had this one person who had come to me for sessions, and she was adopted, and she knew she was adopted. She knew it well, like her parents had like from the right age, did it in the right manner. And she, her conflict or her dilemma was that, I love my parents who adopted me, but there are these moments or times when I behave out of insecurity and I just lash out at them, and I don't know why. And she's like, all I just want to figure out is that where is this coming from, and why am I behaving the way I'm behaving? And it's like, I do understand it could be coming from my biological parents. Okay, as much as I want to go back there and like find out, but I'm also scared to do it. It's like, I just need someone to be able to probably hold my hand through that journey, to go back and connect with my biological mother and my biological father. And it's just that I have this theory around it, but and you know what? She came from a lot of awareness. Like, it's not like she didn't know, and yet she was not able to do it by herself. And I think that just made me think about inner child even more. I was like, wow, if this is a person who's been raised by these two parents, and she's saying clearly that there is no direct issue that I have with my parents who've raised me, but I know there's lots that I carry from the time that I've been adopted, or from my biological parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Ujjwal,
So yeah.
Thank you, Hemant. Thank you so much, Hemant.
So interesting would be many. Three came in my mind, but I won't take that much time. I will just, one very beautiful thing that, so again, a very aware person, very, very somebody who has worked a lot. And that is why I also have this belief that inner child is not everybody believes that, but putting it out here, it's not a one-time job, or it's not a complete transformation once done over. So even after a lot of work, this guy kept on saying that there was this one memory of me when my father was beating me with belt and everything. I remember that in thought that it was happening, but I see the door closed. And the father and me, we were inside. And I always saw it from outside, where my relatives were knocking the door. Don't beat the child, to basically save the client. He said, I've been doing inner child work for 5-6 years. Other things are very beautifully done. I'm not clear, because I am beaten. I should be seeing the father. I'm not seeing the father. I'm seeing the door. And then that was a eureka session, as if, the whole vibe of the room changed, where the person realized, and I personally understood disassociation at that intense level, that the bioshock was so severe for that child when he was being beaten, that as if a part of him, which we, again, in the metaphysics, we call like a fragment of your soul, just left the room because it could not bear the pain. It went out of the room, and the body was suffering, and the eyes of that client became outside the door, where the bua and the mother and the dadi of that kid were banging the door, asking the big man, the father, to not beat the child. And all these years, he was just seeing the door, standing outside while he was being beaten inside. And of course, a lot of transformation happened as a consequence of that. But that was something, whenever I talk about it, the whole vibe changed, when that could, be understood in that session. And it, the roots of these things, how beautiful things show up, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Thank you so much, Ujjwal and Hemant.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching this, please remember, and please take note. It's always good to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
We go to these colleges, we go to these high schools, we buy these fancy phones. And if you feel there is things in your life that you want to work with, it is so difficult, and specifically in our Indian culture, it is really difficult to think that our parents could be bad. It is really difficult to say that my parents could have traumatized me. But when you sit down and you look back at life, it's not that they wanted to, it was what was needed at that point of time. So if you are watching this, please go reach out to a therapist, anybody reach out to Joining Hands, Google, use whatever tools that you have, and find someone who you can work with and make your life more here. Okay. Thank you so much, Hemal. Thank you, Ujjwal. Thank you, Neham. So good to see you. Thank you so much for doing what you do. And thank you for being part of our coffee shop.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neha.
Thank you,
Ujjwal, Hemal, thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody behind the screen as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.